All right, many of you know that a lot of the image, a good percentage of the images I do today are composites. And I take the subject in the studio, and then I take a background, usually in HDR, and I put the two together. And really, I believe this is where the future of photography is going, is being able to take multiple components and building an image. When I first started doing composites, a lot of my friends, colleagues, people that I knew in photography emailed me or called me up and said, look, you've now ceased to become a photographer, you're now an illustrator. And I think for a lot of people, especially the old school people that have been around for a while, that were used to a single capture, really had a hard time letting go of the idea that, yeah, it can be all done in camera. And so what I began to do is, when I began to do my composites, it really opened up a whole new world of opportunities for me. And so what I would say is that you may want, and you're driven by the passion of a single capture image, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I would also encourage you to think about the options of maybe putting together a composite and hopefully fulfilling your vision as an artist. And that's the key to it all. And I think that the composites really do fit my way of seeing the world and how I like the final image to look. So we're going to go and we're going to cover some basic techniques on how I do my composites. All right, here we are. We want to talk about, we're in front of the computer, and I want to talk about the sort of the compositing side of things. And really, as I've said before, I believe that composites are where the future of photography is going. So if you don't have the skills to sort of do the composites, you're going to really kind of be left behind. Now, it may not be your thing, but I can tell you this: if you work in the commercial side of things, or where you're in at least trying to make a living with photography, you're going to have times when a client's going to ask you to do something that requires a composite. Now, you can farm it out, and a lot of photographers I know do farm it out. The problem with farming it out is that number one, you have to rely on someone else, and you have to pay them, which again may not be a bad thing if you factor that cost into the whole scope of the project. But what I like to do is I like to play with an image. I like to move an image around. I like to sometimes I'll take a subject and actually, like I would be in behind the camera, work it until I get what I like and what sort of works for me as an artist. So having the composite skills is really an asset to really being, I think, a photographer in today's age. So what I want to do is show you an image here. We have Kurt. And Kurt used to play rugby. He was on the U.S. Olympic team. And what I want to do is show you sort of the layers of this image here. And this is not a real complex image, but I want to show you. Let's hit this on. So it's a gray background here, and we're going to click off the very top layer, which is actually a flattened layer of the whole thing. And here is pretty much my raw image. Not raw, but raw in that it's come over from the HDR side of things, and it's what is in front of me here as the first step of my background. And you can see it's not super exciting, but you see the grittiness of the concrete and everything here. And so what I do is I have all these different layers, like a black and white adjustment layer, which gives a little bit more grittiness, levels. I can, these are adjustment layers, so I have the flexibility of changing the value of this background, and it's basically non-destructive, meaning that it's destructive to one point. So if an hour later I'm working it, I want to change the value of the background, it's still not going to it's not adding to the destruction of the overall image. You want to minimize as much destruction as you can of the different layers and different things you do in Photoshop. So you wouldn't want to do a levels adjustment the old-fashioned way, which would be go up here, there it is, levels, or Apple L is the shortcut. And that way, if you did levels to that background layer, you're stuck with that until you change it again, and then you're just building destruction upon destruction. So adjustment layers, which are found at the very bottom here, are a great way to just sort of add things to your work, sort of your workload here, and it's not destructive. So if I go here to my glow, I add glows all the time, a little kind of a disperse of light glow behind the subject. That's adding a little bit more. So here comes Kurt, our subject. So you can see here that if I do Control T, which is the free transform option, I can move him around. I can size him, zoom in on him a little bit. But here's the beautiful thing of composites. I can move him around here, and I'm not stuck with the composition that I've done. Say if I was in camera, I would definitely be stuck with this. So I move him around a little bit. Let's go up here. Now I'm adding a little bit more punch to the overall feel, levels, a little bit of grain. Sometimes I add a little bit of fog layer, and then I have to knock that level down. And then on the very last level, sometimes I add a color effects tone control to give me a little bit more grit. But really, that's it with the composite side of things. Being able to move your subject around to create an image that in some ways doesn't exist. The way I look at it is there's reality there, but it's a touch of fantasy. And that's kind of my little thing. And so if I was to shoot this in one capture, there is no way I could take and really add all these glows without knocking them out. So that would be probably what we'd say the best I could do in one capture, say if he was in that garage. But by being able to add these atmospheric elements, I can really kind of add some mood to an image that I couldn't do in one capture. So that's one of the reasons why I do composites. But really it's the ability to control light on him in the studio, and then have the ability to shoot HDR backgrounds separately. Now, one of the things that you notice, or I don't know if I've talked about, but I work in 16-bit mode. And 16-bit mode is going to give me the greatest value of tones in my final image. And my images are kind of beat up a little bit. So I want to start in 16-bit, and HDR, when I capture HDR, I get a true 16-bit file. Most of the cameras that we're using today are 14-bit capture. But you open it up in 16-bit, but it's still a 14-bit capture. So a lot of people ask me, how can you get those backgrounds with such great values and colors and tones? And I think a little bit of that is just, yes, the HDR process, but it's also being captured in 16-bit. So that's another benefit of shooting in a two-stage sequence, background and subject matter. So that's really on composites. It's not as difficult as you would think, but I get emails all the time and people say, here's my first composite, what do you think? And my response is, looks great, now do 300 of them. And it takes about, a couple hundred, I would say a couple hundred composites before you really start to get good at it. So it's just a investment of time. Now maybe you can get it in 100 composites, but attempts. But for me, it's been a long journey at sort of getting this look down and fine-tuning this look, and it's just a matter of practice. So don't be intimidated if you right off the gun you kind of feel like it's not working. It just doesn't seem like it's a real cell. So I have one little saying I always say, that a composite really comes down to selling a fake, and over time you get better at selling that fake. So there you have it with the composites. I hope that at least you can try some, and it may not be your thing, but it may be something that you want to explore for future especially if a client asks you to do that.
Special thanks to FJ Westcott for keeping this episode lit up. Like the music? Special thanks to Triple Scoop Music. Frame Network giveaways are brought to you by B&H. Head to giveaways.framenetwork.com for your chance to win. Find out more about the equipment used in this episode on framenetwork.com.
This week on Lit Up.
All right, here we are in front of the computer talking about Photoshop. And really, I look at it as Photoshop is the second half of the whole process, the creative process. So, just like with the capture side, there's things that you like in the way you approach taking the picture that's unique to you, and the post side is the same way. It's a creative process all the way through.
Head to FrameNetwork.com and create your Passport login to gain exclusive access to Lit Up and your favorite shows. Only on Flix.